Now, when you go 120 minutes without scoring a single goal, that is what we call a failure, especially when you know exactly the way Atleti plays. We know they're going to sit in a deep block, we faced them multiple times, and yet we still don't have solutions. Throughout this entire season, from our very first game against Mallorca, where we scored only one goal from Rodrigo, to this game where we went 120 minutes without creating any real clear-cut chances, you have to say, there is a big problem at Real Madrid right now, especially when you have world-class players like this. If we talk about the players who have regressed this season, the likes of Camavinga, Ferland Mendy, Vinicius. Again, I'm not saying these guys aren't world-class players, but from where they are today versus where they were last season, there's definitely been some regression. And you can't put that all on one player, Toni Kroos retiring, and saying that the whole team fell apart because of him. Now, has the board helped Carlo Ancelotti by recruiting more players and strengthening the squad? No, they haven't. But that does not excuse how poor Real Madrid was last night and throughout this entire season. We've won less than 65% of our games. Think about that. Think about the fact that Real Madrid, this far into the season, has won less than 65% of their games. But in the end of the season, the only thing they're going to look at the board is whether he delivers a Champions League title and major trophies. But for the Real Madrid fans like myself who see this team day in and day out and look at the process, we know it's not good enough. Because if you actually instituted more of a structure in this team, then you could truly dominate the opposition. How many times this season in La Liga, when we're facing weaker opposition, the games we are winning, we're winning by 1 goal. You're telling me we're barely getting through and scraping through weaker opposition in La Liga? How are you winning 2-1 at home, barely getting through? And then the next game, 120 minutes, and you can't score a single goal? Is that where we're at? And let's not forget about the shambolic performances against Barcelona. We got thrashed in both of our games against Barcelona. And you're telling me we could be looking at a Copa del Rey final Classico and a Champions League final Classico if we make it there. First, we have to get through Arsenal and PSG. And from what I've seen from PSG in particular, that's a hard team to beat. No disrespect to Arsenal, but I think we get through Arsenal. But if we are looking at a season where we're going to get touched like an iPad by Barcelona multiple times, and especially in cup finals, Carlo Ancelotti doesn't deserve to just get fired. He should never be allowed to step foot in Madrid again or in Spain again. Now, talk about the actual game. Tchouaméni actually was playing well. He gets a yellow card for that foul on Griezmann in the 40th minute, but overall, his performance was really good. And talk about the profile of player with Dani Ceballos being out. From a ball progression standpoint, if you need a guy to move the ball, Tchouaméni does that better than any of the midfielders that were on the roster last night. But Tchouaméni, the way he was playing before you took him off, he was playing excellent. He was playing so well. But again, what does that do to Tchouaméni? When you're playing well, you're being substituted for one of the most, if not the biggest game of the season, because Carlo Ancelotti deep down doesn't really trust you that much. The same way Carlo Ancelotti destroyed Arda Güler's confidence. The same way Endrick is not getting minutes and he's never going to develop as a player. This team is moving backwards. Camavinga has been having a terrible season. Vinicius is looking horrible. Arda Güler is not advancing. Endrick is not getting any minutes. He's not developing. Tchouaméni was getting booed by the fans this season. Mbappé was missing penalties, having a terrible season. The only guy who's been relatively consistent throughout this entire season has been Rodrigo. Do the players have to take some responsibility? Yes, but it's also down to the coach to get the best out of these players. And a lot of the times when you have the same manager in charge, the same person with the same ideas, you get the same results. And you develop this thing called implicit bias, and you start looking at a problem with the same lens, and you cannot identify other solutions with that problem. And that's where we're at with Carlo Ancelotti. He should be remembered as a guy who transitioned the team from the old guard, the team that won the treble, to this team. But after the season, there is no way you can renew his contract. Look, we got past Atleti, which is great news. We're going to face Arsenal. Arsenal is a team with a lot of significant injuries. I don't know if Bukayo Saka is going to make it back. Havertz is out. They have a lot of key injuries in their team, but their defense is strong. They have Timber, Saliba, they have Gabriel back there, Ben White. They have some really solid defenders. They have Declan Rice in midfield. Do not sleep on Arsenal. The second leg is at the Bernabeu, and they're not going to sit in a deep block the way Atleti does. So stylistically, I do think if this matchup favors us, But if we face Barcelona in a Champions League final, I don't know how many of you are really optimistic about that. I mean, I believe in my players, I just don't believe in the coach. Because you had 120 minutes yesterday and you couldn't find a solution to score one goal. Now, say what you want about Atletico Madrid. I don't like the way they play football, but at least they're a team that's organized. The players know what they're doing. They fight for one another. Whereas our team, a lot of the times, there would be Mbappé or Jude Bellingham free. Vinicius was terrible. And yet you take off Rodrigo and you keep Vinicius off. And towards the end of the game, it was actually Vinicius who told Carlo Ancelotti, take me off. I'm tired. So it wasn't even that Carlo Ancelotti wanted to take Vinicius off. It was that Vinicius asked to come off. After a performance like that, how do you justify keeping Vinicius on the pitch? You have to make those big decisions. When a guy's not playing well, you take him off. And you certainly don't wait till the very last minutes to bring on Brahim Diaz. Not when he scored that winner for us in the last game. But if there's any positives that you want to take from this game, is that at halftime, Carlo Ancelotti changes the shape and he asks Jude Bellingham to play as that right center forward to ask him to press the ball. Mbappé moves to the left center forward position and he tries to be a little bit more aggressive in trying to score a goal. But obviously that didn't work, because if we were a team that knew how to press and we could win the ball high up the pitch, we could do damage with this team. But that's something you need to work on in the training ground. That just doesn't happen because you ask the players to do it. You need to have more structure. Now, I have no idea what goes on at the training ground at Valdebebas. But when I look at Real Madrid in comparison to other clubs in Europe, it's clear we have the best players in the world, but we certainly don't have anywhere near the best system in the world. We lack a lot of structure in our team. The way we advance the ball to the attacking third is very poor. And even when we get to the attacking third, especially since Kylian has come to the team, there's a significant lack of balance in the squad. And I don't know how long we wait and be patient with Carlo Ancelotti to try and figure that out. Because as of now, Real Madrid has won less than 65% of their games this season. And I don't know how that's acceptable with this squad, especially when you're losing to sides that you have no business losing to. Can you lose a Classico? Yes. But you can't lose a Classico the way you did. Certainly not at home and certainly not in a cup final. And then yesterday, excluding the penalties, you lost at the Metropolitano and you had 120 minutes to score a goal and you couldn't do that. So yes, I'm happy that we're through, but regardless, we all can agree that Carlo Ancelotti at the end of the season should go. Make sure you guys stay tuned, subscribe. I have a lot of exciting content ahead of the clash against Arsenal, podcasts, tactical analysis, a bunch of exciting stuff. So you guys definitely want to stay tuned. Thank you for watching. Hala Madrid.